some inner working between them both, and I guess we'll kind of see how this plays out throughout the offseason into the preseason and into the early part of the season. But it's interesting.
It very much is interesting. The other thing that happened that some of you may have heard of is the Rams made a trade. They traded Jared Goff, 2022 and 2023 first rounders, and a 2023 third round pick to the Lions for Matthew Stafford. Lions apparently view Goff as more than a bridge quarterback. McVay was out on Jared Goff, so let's start with the Lions. Do you view Jared Goff as more than a bridge quarterback?
No, I think they're saying the right words to kind of appease Goff and a bit of the his confidence being shook by being traded by the team that drafted him after taking him to multiple playoff appearances and also a Super Bowl berth. So it's I think they're just saying the right things. Obviously, Goff could become something more, but this is a massive rebuilding team, and Goff just doesn't fit the structure of how teams rebuild nowadays. And that's he's got this massive contract, which is obviously why a first round pick was sent up. Multiple first round picks were sent, but he'll likely be there for a few years. They'll realize that he's something more than just a journeyman quarterback, and then it could get better. I just don't see it.
Yeah, I think that he is just going to be a bridge quarterback. They can say he's not all they want, but this is what we kind of felt the Lions needed to do, is get a bridge quarterback in there and start building up on other areas. There's a ton of holes on defense. There's a ton of holes really on offense. Kenny Golladay is going to be a free agent. Marvin Jones is getting older. The only things that are really set there are, one, I would assume the quarterback now, and then Hawkinson and Swift. So, they got a lot of work to do. They brought in a character head coach. They brought in a bridge quarterback. I think they're taking a long-term approach to this, which is the right way to do it. They've accumulated draft picks by shipping out Matthew Stafford. Nothing this year, but, ensuring that they have multiple first rounders the next 2 to 3 seasons. So, good move for the Lions. For the Rams, how do you view the offense with Stafford?
It's gonna get better. Obviously, Stafford was kind of cockhold there in Detroit. Obviously, some good years, modeled in with a bunch of kind of subpar years, just due to probably the lack of coaching, the lack of playmakers. I mean, he had Golladay, Jones, got Hawk late, and then obviously Swift this past season. So it's not like they've always had bad options. It's just it's never really materialized. He goes with the innovative coach with McVay. He has an insane receiving core there with Kupp, Woods, Reynolds. I think is a free agent. I don't know if he'll be back there, but Van Jefferson, second round pick, was serviceable at times. 2 decent tight ends if they decide to keep Gerald Everett, which I don't think they will. And this insane cast of free agent receivers that we have come in. We've obviously heard potential rumors of certain players maybe playing for them, but he gets Akers as well in the backfield. I like this offense. I'm not going to buy into it that heavily because I think it's going to be overinflated in price. And as we say here throughout the entirety of our show, is we don't hate players, we hate ADBs. And I think the Rams offense as a whole is going to have this I want to buy into type of value caked in, and that's just going to hurt, where you want to take some of these players. So I like Stafford, but I think the value cost of what's going to happen is going to be too much.
So we're back on YouTube, and I just want to say I feel like you failed me because we actually didn't have problems at all. What screwed up is the preview screen in my YouTube studio. We're apparently streaming properly. So I just went through.
It's my fault.
All of that for nothing. Yeah, because normally you're watching the actual stream.
No, I don't ever have the stream up. I just have to pop up.
Yeah. So there you go. That's what happened. So sorry, YouTube. Should be good to go for the rest of the show. We thought there were issues because of what I was seeing in the preview panel, which is the only window I have, until apparently we didn't have problems there. And I went to the actual video and we're normal. So it's what happens when you do it live. Stuff's going to go sideways. So apologies to you. And, hopefully we're back there. That one's our bad. So was going off of what I saw, and apparently my eyes deceived me. Anyway, for the Rams, I think it is a bump up to their offense, first and foremost. Stafford is mobile enough to be able to work the way McVay wants him to. McVay doesn't want somebody that's going to run, from what I gathered. He wants somebody that can move the pocket, reset launch point, do some different things, and be a little bit more innovative as far as extending plays and making plays goes. And Stafford's very good at that. They do also do kind of what their MO has been the last few years. They get rid of first-round picks. And, I don't know how they continue to make that work. But the defense is transformed into very good. They do well in free agency. They do well in trades, bringing in established players. And they've stayed successful the last 3 years without first-round picks.
Yeah.
So, a rarity.
It's been impressive. It also speaks to maybe it's time to start looking at your scouting department and asking them why it's okay for them to move on from all these picks. It's going to bite them in the ass. Obviously, you don't get the benefit of having these rookies on these small contracts if you're constantly trading away these first round picks for already established players. It's going to make the Rams competitive and already what looks to be a very competitive NFC West, especially with the improvements with Kyler Murray, obviously with the Seahawks, and we'll see what San Francisco does. But it's like I said, it's going to make for a fun year for them, and we'll see how well they can keep up with this no first-round picks thing going on.
Yep. Now, it is good for Bobby Trees. It's good for Cooper Kupp. Don't expect Everett or Josh Reynolds to be back, so they're going to have some depth behind that, whether that's Van Jefferson or somebody else. So, I think the other thing here, though, is there's an argument that I've seen a lot on Twitter, too, that I don't necessarily agree with, and it's knocking Stafford for his inability really to put together strings of winning seasons in Detroit. So, we'll talk about this here in a minute also when we get to Deshaun Watson, but, how do you perceive that? Some of the inabilities of Detroit to string together a winning, consistent winning seasons, and how much of that is on Matthew Stafford?
Breaking news, winning isn't a QB stat. It's a team stat. It's a coach stat or whatever. Obviously, a lot of the praise and the blame will fall onto the coach, the head coach and the quarterback for it, but it doesn't affect. It's got nothing to do with just the quarterback position. It's a team that's built around them. And we've seen with Detroit through umpteenth years that they continue to fail and consistently fail at being a team that wants to make the playoffs and grow beyond that. They haven't been able to grow their own because they've been drafting poorly. They've been ran poorly. And that's going to hurt Stafford. If somebody believes that this is a weakness of Stafford's, and they haven't watched Detroit play football. They haven't watched Stafford. They haven't watched any games of Stafford.
No.
He's one of the most clutch quarterbacks in the league. He's constantly having to carry this fucking team on his back. It's been surprising that he's been able to stay this healthy, just given how piss poor their offensive line generally is every year. So, it's completely false. And if that narrative's being spun around to help deter the value of him and the other playmakers around him, then great. Then we can maybe I'll have a shot at drafting some of these guys in redraft leagues.
Yeah, I agree. It's not a quarterback stat, and my challenge to that is show me a year where the Lions had a mildly competent run game, a league average offensive line, a league average or better defense at the same time around Matthew Stafford, as well as at least two solid receiving options. It hasn't happened. You didn't have a running game when Calvin Johnson was in town. You didn't have anybody behind Calvin Johnson. Darius Slade and Ndamukong Suh during their times were essentially the defense. The defense has never been anything more than just average during Stafford's tenure there. The running game, they famously went you know, years without a 100-yard rusher. Years without one. And it's not a quarterback stat. You can't say, well, Stafford didn't win, he's not a good quarterback, and go out and sell the farm for Deshaun Watson, who went 4-12, and, you know, mean both things. You can't have both of those things coming out of your mouth. Either you believe wins are on a quarterback or they aren't. You can't be not sold on Stafford and think that you should go out and give up the asking price for Deshaun Watson at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, speaking of Deshaun Watson, two asking prices have leaked, and I think one is way more reasonable than the other. The first one is the Texans want 2 firsts, 2 seconds, and 2 defensive starters in a Deshaun Watson trade. And me being a Bears fan, this came up in one of our group chats.
Yep.
I'm not doing that if I'm the Bears GM. If I'm anybody's GM, I'm probably not doing that. And the reason is you're giving up 2 firsts, 2 seconds, and 2 defensive starters that you figure are going to be young defensive starters that, you know, probably if you plug a valuation on them would be top 3 to top 4 picks. You're then saying, okay, we have our quarterback, but in the case of the Bears, which is what I was arguing against, we have our quarterback, but you have deficiencies at tackle, you have deficiencies in the pass rush, you have deficiencies at wide receiver because Robinson's likely gone. You now have 2 defensive starters that you have to replace, and you need to do all of that with no first-round picks or second-round picks for at least the next 2 seasons. So how do you justify that? Unless you're a team that is very, very much geared to win now, and your only deficiencies at quarterback, or one of your only deficiencies is at quarterback, and you have defensive depth to spare, well, I don't think you can.
I don't think any team actually
would pay that.
Would pay into this price. I mean, you're looking at 6 starters. I mean, you hope that your second round picks are starters for you as early as mid-season in their rookie year. You'd hope there'd be some sort of contribution from these top picks, from 2 top 32 picks and 2 top 75 picks. You want to have, starter minutes. You want to have legit contributions from these players on top of 2 other defensive starters, which I agree with you are likely guys that I won't say that are maybe built around blocks, but probably have either been in the league for a while and they're veterans, or they're young studs who could emerge. That's 6 starters, for Watson. I get why they asked for this. No team's willing to pay for it, but you don't ask, for your middling accepting offer. You ask for the most. So I think the next one
makes more sense.
Makes a lot more sense because you have to take into account Watson and his contract, and then it also just falls in line with the team. Obviously, when the Dolphins were rumored with Tua, Tua not only comes with a young quarterback but on a rookie contract, so you almost get 2 benefits for this one draft pick that you wouldn't get from anybody else, or not anybody, but any other position. You won't get that sort of value to it. So, the other one, the 3 first-round picks, 2 of which are actually first-round picks, and some established player with what people would perceive as first-round value. I think it's more likely. Yeah. I honestly think that might be a little bit less than what Watson gets, but it all depends on the team and the players involved.
It probably would be. You look at what the market was just set at for Matthew Stafford. You're getting a younger quarterback that I think has a little bit less arm talent, because people forget, I might get some hate for saying that, but I don't think Deshaun Watson has the arm talent of Matthew Stafford. He's more athletic. I don't think he has the arm talent. Not a lot of people do have Matthew Stafford's arm talent.
I don't think that's a hot take at all. I think Watson just, fits where today's NFL is moving. He's young. He's proven.
He's young and he's athletic.
You've seen elite upside.
Yeah.
With Stafford, you've seen that. It's been also hindered by, playing for Detroit. So we may see Stafford ascend to top 5 category with the Rams.
The thing you have to remember about the Goff trade is those are a 2022 and a 2023 first round pick, not a 2021. So future first rounders don't quite hold the same weight. They're also, they threw in a third round pick and Jared Goff. I see this probably being something like 2 first, another day 2 pick, and maybe an established player going back towards the Texans. I don't know that they get 3 first. I could see 2 first, a day 2 pick, like 2 first, a third, and an established player. Kind of similar to what you got for Stafford. But, well, that is exactly what you got for Stafford.
Yeah.
But, maybe it's a 2021, 2022. Maybe it's 2 first, a second, and a third. Maybe it's 2 first, a third, and a fifth, plus a player. I think that 3 first round picks is probably closest to realistic with a little bit on top, but I think one of those first rounders probably becomes multiple later round picks.
So, we keep talking about first rounders. I can almost guarantee you that one of the first round picks, if not potentially both, has to be high. At least one of them has to be, I would assume, top 10.
Yeah.
Unless they're getting a bridge quarterback in return. The Texans, the whole organization may be viewed as fucking stupid, but they know that this is a good draft class for quarterbacks this year. Otherwise, they wouldn't have a job. We know that.
Organization is being ran right now by a fucking character coach.
Yeah. But they still know what this class entails. They know what next year's class, could entail. Whether they get it right is hearsay, but it's they want to know that they have a chance at drafting one of these high scouted, highly touted quarterbacks. And then I don't think they give up Watson unless they get one in return, and a Tua, get a potential starter who may see really great returns if he's properly developed, and Sam Darnold, or they'll take a bridge guy and try to use the other first round pick as either taking a Mac Jones or somebody else, but they're not going to just take 2 late firsts and a second. They're going to want one of these high end first round picks. Otherwise, it should just be an auto no.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens there. I mean, he's going to end up someplace that isn't Houston. It's just going to depend on, on who's going to make the trade.
Somebody's going to, I guarantee, and we spoke about this a while ago, it's going to be a team that no one talks about.
Yeah. I mean,
obviously we keep mentioning Miami, the Jets have been mentioned, the Bears have now been mentioned. It's going to be a team that comes out of nowhere that overpays. And I think he's going to go to a NFC team. That way Houston only gets to play him once every 4 years.
Yeah. Jets and Jacksonville, both with 2 first rounders, by the way.
Jets could do it.
Jets would be the most likely one, I think.
Jets make the most sense. It's not at least within their division. I don't see Jacksonville. I promise you there's people out there.
No, Jacksonville's going to take Lawrence, who I think is ultimately going to be a better quarterback anyway. So
he is likely. I'm sure there's people around the league that likely view Lawrence.
But then it becomes, is Watson better than Justin Fields or Zach Wilson? I think he probably is, because he's established and he's proven it. I mean, there's still a certain amount of gamble with draft picks.
Yeah. I can't wait for it to be like Washington.
It could be.
It could. There's so many teams. It could end up being like fucking New Orleans somehow does it. Maybe a Chicago or a Minnesota or like San Francisco comes out of nowhere, and or it could be like a 3 or 4 team trade that we see in basketball all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Houston would do good just to get back into the first round this year, given all of their needs.
Yep.
All right. One last small note. Courtland Sutton has resumed jogging. So, torn ACL, one of our favorite buy low candidates of the offseason because people tend to hate injuries. So, Courtland Sutton is back jogging.
That's perfect. Hopefully, I'm assuming he'll be back in time. Back before the season starts.
Yeah, no, I would expect him to.
So.
He got hurt relatively early on in the season, so I would fully expect him to.
Yep.
All right, so we said we're going to talk quarterbacks, so let's go through just team by team, division by division. If they're locked into a quarterback, we won't talk about them. If we think that there's going to be some turnover at quarterback, we'll talk about it. Let's start. We normally start in the East. Let's start in the West. I'll work bottom to top this time.
Okay.
Seahawks, they're locked in with Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
49ers and Jimmy Garoppolo. I think most people expect the 49ers to do something about that situation given Garoppolo's injuries and underperformance.
I completely agree. There's been rumors. We all know of Kyle Shanahan's love of Kirk Cousins. A lot of rumor, a lot of stuff flying around that Minnesota and San Francisco could be in works of making that trade possibly happen with Kirk Cousins. What happens to Garoppolo, though, I would hate to see him go back to Minnesota. I can also see a team like New England get involved and create a 3-team deal, get some draft picks sent their way and see something happen, as New England's been linked as a team potentially vying for Garoppolo as he's, comfortable and knows that offense.
That's fair. Yeah. I think that New England could be in play for Garoppolo. By the way, Stafford apparently would go anywhere but New England. So,
that just makes you fucking love him more.
It does. So, yeah, Garoppolo's going someplace. If the Vikings, if they do trade with the Vikings, then I would hope that they just take picks back and not Jimmy G if they trade for Kirk Cousins.
That would be the hope. It's what's interesting is how it's what Cousins would get in return.
Could you see a quarterback going to San Francisco at number 12?
You could. You got like Trey Lance, who fits, who's got the massive athletic upside.
Yeah, no, they already have Deebo Samuel. They're good there.
Zach Wilson, if he's there, could probably run that fairly well. He's mobile enough to fit in that, the West Coast spread out, type of style. He's also smart enough with the football to not make too many mistakes. He's got some gunslinger. I
haven't watched Mac Jones yet. I was relatively impressed with Trask and his ability to process things quick and his arm strength. I think that he could be the guy that pulls kind of a Justin Herbert from last year. I'm not comparing him to Herbert, but a guy that comes in is, not so sure he's going to do it and comes in and overperforms. I think they could pick somebody at 12 that wants to bring in to compete. And like you mentioned, could be Lance, could be a Mac Jones, could be
I would also like Mac Jones.
A Kyle Trask. It could be a Zach Wilson. Any of those guys could potentially land there because they are picking high enough to be in quarterback range. And when you look at the teams that are between them, there's not a whole lot of quarterback need happening there. So, I
don't see them drafting one though.
Yeah.
I think with this team, they're, they went to the Super Bowl last year. Obviously, injuries to Garoppolo, Kittle, Debo. The whole team just completely underwhelmed.
Sure.
I think this is we're going to trade for a quarterback type of move, or they'll ride out with Jimmy. I think if they do draft one, it'll be a day 2 pick. Maybe trade back up in the first round if they feel so inclined to if a guy slips. Because there's a good chance that happens. Obviously, we've been seeing 5 quarterbacks in the first round. Kyle Trask is kind of the wild card to see if he goes first round. I believe Mac Jones is locked in first round, and everybody else from Lance and Wilson, Fields and Lawrence.
I think Lance is, from what I saw, more wild card because I think he's more developmental. I think it's one of those things with Lance and Trask where I think, from a fantasy perspective, Lance would probably be the better quarterback. Although he's not Lamar Jackson athletic, he's just very... He's athletic. He's big. He's got great footwork. Yeah. In the run game, has running back type vision, even though he's not Lamar Jackson athletic. But I think from a fantasy perspective, you're probably going to end up wanting Trey Lance. I think from an NFL perspective, he might be kind of Jalen Hurts-esque to a degree, where I think NFL teams might view him as needing a little bit more development work coming out of an FCS school. There were some holes there that need to be worked on, even though he's a good raw prospect. So, one of those things to where, anyway, we're derailing. We're getting on to shit we'll talk about when we get to the draft.
About these guys. Yeah, at some point here in the next couple of months.
That being said, San Francisco's doing something. Do you see any of the free agents potentially landing there? Dak Prescott's a free agent. Jacoby Brissett could reasonably come in and compete. Mitchell Trubisky's a guy that has some mobility that could do well under the tutelage of Shanahan. Anybody of that nature. Jameis Winston's a free agent.
I would. I think all those players are in play. Maybe not Dak. I don't think they're going to want to invest if they're. I don't know what their cap situation looks like. So, I think any team outside of a few would be elated to have Dak on this roster, on their roster. I think a Brissett, I think a Trubisky for obviously far less money to come in and to compete with the Garoppolo.
And push him a little bit.
Garoppolo probably makes the most sense if they don't make a trade for it. Trubisky's still young. Garoppolo's still young. And you get a guy like Kyle Shanahan to be their mentor in an offense that's built around running the football and playing defense.
Yeah.
And just not asking a lot of these players. So I think there's a 50-50% chance that Jimmy G's gone. I think they're going to shop around. I don't know how cute they'll get, though.
I think that with Garoppolo's trade value being in the tank, I think that San Francisco probably takes a shot at bringing somebody in like a Trubisky or a Brissett to compete with Jimmy Garoppolo and push him a little bit.
At least, create some competition. If it's not Garoppolo, that's because one of these players
played better. Yeah.
Have ascended. Yeah.
I think that's probably the most realistic route for San Francisco.
Yeah, I agree with that.
All right, Los Angeles is set with the Matt Stafford trade. Arizona's set with Kyler Murray. So out of the NFC West, we have one team that changed quarterbacks. We have one team that we're suspecting will change quarterbacks. So that's two. The whole point of this is basically proof out Schefter or not, who said that I think it was 2/3 or something like that could potentially.
There's 18 teams, I thought.
Yeah.
Which is just above half.
Yep.
So about 58% of the teams.
Yep.
Which again makes sense.
All right, let's look at the AFC West. Chargers are set with Justin Herbert. Raiders, Derek Carr.
So
this is
news came up. I figured why write it in there when we'll talk about it. Las Vegas Review Journal's Vincent, not going to say his last name, writes that multiple teams are expected to pursue a trade for Derek Carr.
For Derek Carr.
Yes. I don't think Carr is a Raider. It's obviously wasn't brought in by Gruden and his coaching staff. I think Gruden's had mixed feelings about Carr. I don't think Carr fits the offense that Gruden wants to run. Doesn't like to push the football downfield. When you draft for speed,
you need somebody with a big arm.
That type of mentality. And I don't know if Carr has that. I think Carr obviously can. I think Carr's got better arm talent than people believe. He's just, again, a guy who hasn't been able to stay healthy. He's had one or two decent seasons under his belt. I think Gruden's going to want to get his own guy, whether that be through the draft or through trade. And I think Carr gets moved on somewhere.
He's been over 4,000 yards the last 3 years. I did not know that. Carr has.
Yeah.
Touchdowns haven't been there, though. The question is who's running out and trading for Derek Carr, I think, is, they might be listening, but who is sprinting out to trade for Derek Carr? Who's going to spend that is quarterback needy? Who's going to be like, yeah, I want to go out and spend significant capital on that guy?
So this writer actually posted the teams that he thinks will be potential suitors. Colts, which
possible.
I guess makes a little sense. The Bears, which I think they'd be, I don't know how you feel. Patriots and Washington would be, he lists 4 teams. Those are the 4 teams that he listed. New England, I think always makes sense. Washington could. I think Carr is good enough to help that team out in a very bad division in the East. But I don't know if he's ever going to elevate a team to be a big Super Bowl contender.
Let me see what his cap situation is. He's not going to elevate a team to be a big Super Bowl contender, I don't think. I think that for a team like the Colts, who need a bridge quarterback and they can get away cheaper with Derek Carr than they could. I mean, they made it work with Phillip Rivers, right? So I feel like they can get away cheaper with Derek Carr than they could have Deshaun Watson or, a Matthew Stafford. That makes sense. For a team like the Bears, who could be set to see a regime change anyway, I don't really like the idea of them trading for Derek Carr. I'm trying to pull up his contract situation, but I can't get Spotrac to load.
So I'm looking at Roto World. The guy said it'll cost the Raiders $2.5 million in dead cap if they trade him.
Okay.
He's got 2 years left, about $20 million per season, so he's making below average. I think below average quarterback contract in the league.
Colts make the most sense if they do that. If that happens,
but if there's a team that does, I think a team like the Colts.
Yeah, it is. It's a team like the Colts. New England needs to call it a rebuild. Maybe they're not ready to, but they need to.
Yeah. They absolutely should.
And Washington's in a window, but I think Washington's young enough in their window to where I don't want to see them bring in, a Derek Carr who's close to 30, I think, with 2 years left on his deal, and then be back in a situation of needing a quarterback. Washington's at that point where they need to get a young quarterback brought in. That's why I think they could be a dark horse for Watson. I don't know that they're going to get that picking it at 19. So
they'd have to give up a lot more. They obviously have some of the young defensive pieces to make that work. And a guy like Sweat and Young, I don't know if they get both.
Washington's another place I probably see a free agent landing, and another landing spot for one of those draft pick type quarterbacks that aren't necessarily surefire starters.
Yeah, I mean, they said here that the Raiders would probably, I see this in quotes, probably listen if the offers include multiple first round picks. I don't think
who's giving up multiple first round picks for Derek Carr.
Yeah, I think you can get one late. I could see maybe a team like New Orleans, a team like Pittsburgh, who are seeing their veteran quarterbacks probably retire. Obviously, one of them with Breeze is going to retire. Again, I'm just spitballing here. I don't know. I think Carr is more on the lower end of being traded.
Yeah.
Being let go. Obviously Mariota's there to do competition, but I don't know if Carr gets moved.
Yeah, Saints could make sense where there's some stability there. But yeah, I don't know if Carr gets moved either. I think that they're stuck with him because I don't think his trade value is high enough to where they're going to get what they want.
Yeah. Yep.
Chiefs are set with Mahomes, Denver Broncos, and Drew Lock. As much as I want to believe that they're set.
You will ride and die with this man.
With Drew Lock. I think Lock gets to play out his rookie deal. I really do. At least as long as Fangio's there and Elway's in office. I think that Lock gets to play out his deal. Denver's picking 9th. I think that they spend that pick probably on defense because, let's be honest, aging pass rush looked a little lackluster without Von Miller. Yeah. They need offensive line help. And they're another team that I could see bringing somebody in to try to compete, a veteran presence, to try to compete. They're another team that could be in on a guy like, I'm looking at free agents right now. Yeah, I don't really know. Kyle Allen's a free agent. He just broke his leg. So, I mean, we see there. Jameis Winston, again, if he doesn't go back to New Orleans, there's a good shot that he's actually starting in New Orleans. Maybe a Cam Newton is somebody that they bring in.
I think they go pretty heavy at Dak.
They could go heavy at Dak too.
Money. I mean, this is an offense set with a lot of playmakers. And I think what Denver hopes is that they don't, trade away that top pick, use it on defense, like you said, get like a Patrick Surtain, get some
Yeah.
get some cornerstone defensive back that you can build your secondary around, and then try to bring in or trade for one of these, bring in like a guy like Dak if they could. John Elway's probably still going to try to call some of these shots. We know that Elway's very, very aggressive when it comes to these free agent quarterbacks. I mean, his first move was to bring in Peyton Manning, for fuck's sake. So we know that it's there.
Yeah.
It's I see another veteran spot though, too. I don't know how they really feel about Locke. I don't think the regime is there that drafted Locke, so there's always that uncertainty. But
but Elway did. He just gave himself a promotion. So
yeah.
So I mean,
I think he's set to at least compete this year. I'll be interested to see what Denver does with that.
Yeah, I will too. You know what would be interesting, by the way? Washington makes a run at Dak.
Oh, I fully expect a lot of teams, especially teams that were on the verge of like playoff, or if like one of these teams, trade away one of their starters, a la like the Raiders or the Vikings or the 49ers, teams that we kind of, I won't say expect, but may move one of their starters. Making a move at Dak here.
Sure. All right. On to the NFC South. So I think that coming out of that, the Raiders are a maybe, kind of like the 49ers are, and the Broncos are a maybe, kind of like the 49ers are. So that puts us at 4 teams that could potentially be looking at new quarterbacks. The Rams have a new quarterback. The 49ers, the Raiders, and the Broncos. Let's look at the NFC South. Tampa Bay, Tom Brady said he wants to play past 45. I think Brady's locked in there.
Yeah.
The Saints, we know for sure, will have a new quarterback. Now, whether that's bringing back Jameis Winston, whether that's Taysom Hill, I don't think they're drafting high enough to make. Actually, I know they're not drafting. Yeah, they got the 28th pick. So they're not drafting a surefire starter at pick 28. They could be a dark horse to make a trade. More than likely, I think it's Jameis or Taysom Hill.
I think that one of those two will start. I think that pick 28 could be used for a quarterback there. I think that's going to be a popular spot to move up to. For teams trying to trade back into the first round for one of these quarterbacks that slip. I think New Orleans is going to take a quarterback, though, either with their first pick or some pick in day 2. As much as I want to believe that Winston could be the future there, and he very well could be, it won't deter teams from, from drafting their quarterback. I can see Sean Payton still wants to coach him, obviously, this team, and he'll need to find somebody that he wants to have that, he wants to put that trust into. It's not fucking Taysom Hill, and we'll see if it's Jameis Winston.
It very well could be Jameis Winston. Just because,
yeah, I hope so.
For me, if you're picking at 28, then, you're assuming at that point that, there's probably 4 guys gone already at minimum, right?
Yeah.
You're probably down. You're for sure down Fields and Lawrence, likely down Zach Wilson, and then I would say one of Trask or Lance. So, and Mac Jones. Actually, I don't know. I haven't watched Mac Jones yet. I don't know if I like him to go higher or lower than Lance and Trask. Probably lower.
Probably a mid to late. I don't know. I think most people view Jones as above Trask. Right now I do, but again, we're such early.
They had a pretty decent shootout in the SEC title game.
So Trask had that like mini Burrow-esque type of rise, comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And puts forth a ridiculous, good looking season. Not of the levels that Burrow obviously did with LSU, but yeah.
Sure. So, yeah, I'm assuming it's Jameis Winston re-signing there. As much as there's a lot of landing spots I think would be good for Jameis, I'm assuming it's Jameis Winston re-signing there.
Yeah, that's fair.
And starting. And Hill's under contract. So, Carolina Panthers.
Then what? Pick 11? No, I don't know.
They are pick 8.
8. Yeah, 8. They're the team that I'm looking at probably taking the fourth quarterback off the board at pick 8.
You think 4 go by pick 8?
I think they could be the fourth. Yeah, I think they could. It depends.
So who ahead of them
I still think it's going to be Lawrence and Fields will go 1 and 2.
You think somebody trades up then or do you think because it's Miami, Atlanta, Cincinnati, Philadelphia, Detroit picking ahead of them?
I fully expect the team to move up and to take one of these guys. Obviously, one of the teams middle of the round in the teens will move up. I believe if like a Wilson, I don't know who goes at beyond Wilson. I think he's a consensus 3 as of right now as a whole. Depends though. You can see people falling in love with one of these other guys and then making that move up for. I don't know if you'll get a fourth one, but I can see people falling in love with Trey Lance, and people fell the same way that people fell in love with Josh Allen.
Trey Lance is not going top 10. I
didn't think Josh Allen would go top 10.
I will.
Fucking stupid that he went top 10.
Yeah, Josh Allen though.
The same type of he didn't post the same rushing production, and he has the same sort of athletic upside as the way that Josh Allen did. So
Trey Lance ain't
I'm
going
not saying that
10.
Trey Lance will, because I agree with you. I don't know if he should go top 10.
I don't know if he should go first round.
I think he'll go first round. I think people are going to fall in love with the his athletic upside.
And I don't know that
with what he put forth in 2019, I think will help propel him into the first round.
And I have a hard time seeing 4 quarterbacks going in the first 8 picks. Also, given some of these needs, I really do. Carolina could move.
Carolina is the team that moves up then too from pick 8 to try to get.
They could move up. Forward. They could move back.
They could.
I think they did a solid job with the defense. I think that the offense is relatively in good shape, honestly.
Yeah.
The question with Carolina is by far the quarterback position. Could they trade the 8th pick? Could they be the dark horse in the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes?
Most of these teams are. I mean, there were reports that they offered the 8th pick for Stafford. So yes, I think they're going to be aggressive. I don't think Teddy's a starter, and whether they leave the draft with the quarterback at pick 8 or they trade it away to try to get a new starter in, that's going to happen. I love Teddy. Great story. Fantastic story. He's just not the same player he was pre-injury, and the league knows that. I think he's a good bridge quarterback, pun intended, but
well, and he's under contract too, so it doesn't have to not be Teddy if they decide to go elsewhere or don't get a deal they like or don't get a prospect that they like. It's just when I look at the Panthers, there's not, to me, a ton of holes on that. You can improve the defense some, but they've spent capital on that recently. So, there's not... they were competitive in just about every game without Christian McCaffrey. So, it could be Teddy, and they rely on CMC. But if there's a dark horse, to me, that has the draft capital... because the Jets are rumored in the Watson sweepstakes, it's Carolina.
Yeah.
And I would love that fit. Anything else there?
The Panthers, no.
No. Falcons with Matt Ryan. I think that they stand pat there.
It's been stated by Tom Pelissero or Tom Parcello.
Pelissero?
Pelissero, wow. L's are all in the wrong place when I pronounce it. Reports that Matt Ryan and Julio Jones are not going anywhere.
Not going anywhere. Yeah. So I fully expected Matt Ryan to be there. I think he's safe.
Yeah.
Tennessee Titans, that'll be Ryan Tannehill again.
Yep.
Jacksonville Jaguars, we're assuming Trevor Lawrence. So I don't know that we need to say anything else about that.
Nope.
Colts. We've already kind of talked about people that could land there. The Colts are a team that needs to get a quarterback for now. Because they're a playoff team with Phillip Rivers. They could still be a playoff team. They need to get a quarterback for now.
Where Minnesota was a few years ago. When they
Yep. They were in on Stafford. Chris Ballard said they made a strong offer. Not the Rams offer, which blew everybody else away, but said they made a strong offer. So they were in there. They could make a run at Prescott. They could re-sign Brissett and try to game manage that again. They could be a dark horse in a Watson trade.
There's a lot of
options for the Colts.
To go to. What we do know is that Brissett's a free agent. I don't think he's returned there. We've talked about Jacob Eason as having a chance. I think we want to believe this team goes in a veteran move to capitalize on where this team is right now.
Bring in Cam Newton and let him compete with Jacob Eason.
That'd be fun. I don't know if I'd be that excited if I'm a Colts fan, because you're not getting much in Cam Newton at this point.
He had nothing around him either, though.
I also think drafting a quarterback here is still a very young team. You can still capitalize on having a rookie quarterback contract mixed in with having to pay, Quentin Nelson, with having to pay Darius Leonard, with having to pay potentially at some point pay Jonathan Taylor and Michael Pittman, whoever draft picks they have. They can utilize that fifth-year option in drafts.
And for that,
somebody else at pick 21, which I believe if Mac Jones is available there, they take him.
Well, and for that, I would expect them to have to move up, right? Mac Jones could be available at 21, but you look at the quarterback needy teams ahead of them, it becomes Willie B. They pick right behind Washington and Chicago.
That's right, they do, don't they?
Yep. So
that's why I think many people believe that they're
right behind Washington and Chicago and Miami's next pick if they wanted to take a flyer on somebody, and Vegas if they trade Derek Carr, and New England. I mean, that range is ripe with people that could take any of the three quarterbacks we've talked about. Yeah, somebody's moving up.
One of them.
And Indianapolis is the one that should. If there's a team that should give up draft capital to move up in this draft, it is Indianapolis. Maybe they move up and get Zach Wilson.
Yeah. Maybe they'll make, they'll be. It depends how aggressive they want to get. Zach Wilson, I don't think makes that on the top 10. I don't know if Indy's going to be that aggressive to make that move.
Dallas is picking 10. If they re-sign Dak, they could be in a position to trade back.
They could. I'd see them keeping that pick too, but either way, I don't want to get into speculations on what these teams will do with the draft picks.
Well, that's kind of what we're doing, though, right? For quarterback needy teams?
Well, for quarterback wise, yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, I do think they can move up, though. They can move up to 3.
They can do
They can do a lot.
They can do a lot.
Colts are one of those teams with options, but the one thing that needs to happen, for sure, is they need to bring in somebody that can get them wins now and into the playoffs.
Yep.
Because they have a window. They got a long-term window, too, really, when you look at that team.
They have a type of window.
Yeah.
In my opinion, and I don't know if the defense gets as much love as the Vikings did when they had theirs, kind of in that, 17, 18, but, during those 2 years. But this team is ripe with a lot of playmakers.
Yeah. Houston.
I don't think it's guaranteed. As much as we talk about it, I don't know if it's guaranteed that Watson is traded.
Well, if he's not traded, then I'm guessing he's not playing football.
Yeah, I'd be shocked. Other than that, it just depends what they get in return. Obviously, if they, go after Miami or New York, they'll either draft Wilson or Fields at 2, the Jets pick, unless Darnold's involved, and maybe they don't. Or they'll stick with Tua and they'll use the draft picks in return to build.
AJ McCarron.
What's that?
AJ McCarron is going to start there.
Is he their backup right now?
Yeah, and I think he's under contract. I'm not sure. Hold on.
Okay. So as of right now, more than likely he'll be. I don't know if he'll be.
Nope, he's not under contract.
Okay, so.
And Josh McCown, we know, is not gonna play. So
dumb.
They're gonna get some journeyman that needs a job. I don't see them. They don't have a first round pick unless they successfully trade Watson. If they decide not to trade Watson, they don't have a first round pick to draft a quarterback. They
almost have to move Watson. I mean, if it's right,
they
if
have
they don't
to
move him, and if he decides to hold out and say fuck it,
they're screwed.
Yeah, and that's ultimately where they're losing leverage during trade talks too. Is that if teams obviously have some sort of information on what Watson will do.
Also, this idea that team's a dumpster fire, and I can't imagine that anybody going there anybody's gonna want to go there on any form of multi-year deal other than a 1 year get it done type of thing. Maybe if Fitzpatrick wants to extend his career at the ripe old age of 39, maybe if Trubisky doesn't have a lot of takers, a Colt McCoy at the age of 35 is a guy that could go there and be a late tier bridge. I can't see a lot of people wanting to go there. Joe Flacco, if he still thinks he can start. I mean, those are the types of players I think are in play for the Texans. They have nothing to attract talent.
And this Watson thing could be headlines up until draft night. Watson may not get moved until draft night.
Yeah.
It may take that much time. It may, we're going to hear rumors throughout, and we'll be on it as best as we can. If you're following us on Twitter, you'll hear us, one of us, not both of us, talk about it.
If not, but yeah, I'll normally shoot off a snarky tweet here or there. So
yeah,
at Hot BFF with 2 P's, at Theory BFF with 2 F's. Don't tweet much from the show account other than when new shows drop. So, NFC North. Vikings and Kirk Cousins. I wouldn't be surprised if Cousins is a starter there. I wouldn't be surprised if they trade him.
I think
he's probably the starter there. I'm not willing to say that they're going to switch quarterbacks.
Yeah, I don't. I think it's more of a pipe dream. Obviously, Cousins he gets either you love him or you hate him in Minnesota. Obviously, for Vikings fans, I would love to see him move on because I don't think Cousins is the future. And I think this team needs to accept that this is more close to a rebuild, retool than it is a competitive team, especially where the defense is at this point, and with the cap issues that they're about to fall themselves into, as being one of the lower salary cap teams in the league. Spielman's great about finding space and making room, but as in terms of Cousins, I think he's kind of tied to Spielman and in a sense, Zimmer as well. So I don't think they move him unless they get a blowaway offer, and the only team that does that is San Francisco.
Yeah, and I don't think they do either. So I don't know. The problem with Kirk Cousins is that even though you want to, looking at what's out there, who's really going to be an upgrade? You sell the farm.
That's Dak. I think Dak's the only
sell the farm for Dak. That's a sure upgrade. It's not Brissett. It's not Trubisky. It's not Trubisky behind Dak and Jameis is probably the next best quarterback on the market. It's basically your starting level quarterbacks on the market: Jameis Winston, Mitch Trubisky, Dak Prescott. That's it. That's the list of people that are out there as free agents that could start.
It's not
deep by any means.
Especially with Cousins, who has played well.
Yeah.
Within structure. He plays well within structure.
I guess Brissett could too, but
yeah. He's not better than Cousins.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And then you look at where they're picking in the draft without moving up. And, I think Dan, you as a Vikings fan would probably want them to address the defense. Then, you're going to get Danielle Hunter back. But you guys have massive problems in the secondary.
Yeah. I mean,
so
I don't, this team has constantly drafted cornerbacks during the Mike Zimmer era. And to be quite honest, outside of Rhodes for those couple of years,
not been impressive.
Hasn't lived up to his billing.
Yeah.
Zimmer just hasn't lived up to a secondary billing. Done well with the front seven. I think the front four especially, he's done a tremendous job, him and his coaching staff.
Kendricks is one of the most impressive linebackers I've seen in a long time.
Kendricks, he's arguably the best, if not top two, cover linebackers.
He's super athletic.
Extremely important in today's football, in today's NFL. So
yeah. The other thing
I would love him to draft a quarterback.
And the thing is, if they do, you talk about Trey Lance being a first-round pick, hold your heart, it might be to the Vikings, because I think they're the team in that mid-rounds of the draft that could afford to draft him and have him sit behind Cousins as the quarterback of the future, a la, what the Packers did with Jordan Love, but, actually somebody that's talented.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes that, and they don't have a fucking Rodgers ahead of them, which is, I don't think Love will ever reach the levels where he's at now.
Outside of that, Trey Lance is the one guy I look at, and again, I've been shitting on Trey Lance this whole episode. He's kind of the one guy I look at is, okay, yeah, his upside at that range could be better than Cousins. I looked at Trask, and one of the first things I thought as a comp was Kirk Cousins. And you had the Kirk Cousins comp for Mac Jones.
Yep.
So, now what? Okay, we don't think Wilson's getting out of the top 10, so Trey Lance to Minnesota would make sense.
It'd be a great story. Obviously, he's from Minnesota. The Gophers got a lot of shit for not even going after him in terms of recruiting.
Mm-hmm.
I would absolutely love to move if it happened.
I think it's Cousins, though. I think Cousins is starting.
Cousins is starting day one if he doesn't leave.
Yeah.
I don't think he gets traded. I think it's more.
And I don't think he gets
fans' pipe dreams.
Traded either, because outside of Watson, there's not anybody on the market. He's better than Derek Carr. So there's not anybody out there that's available via trade necessarily that you'd want to do that for. He's better than Garoppolo. So
I wouldn't be shocked if somehow the Vikings pull it off. I don't know. I just don't.
They're going to pull it off. If they pull off a Cousins trade, it's going to be for something you hate.
Oh, God. It probably will be.
I don't think trading...
trade for Garoppolo, and they'll say that he's the future.
Yeah, I don't think trading Cousins makes the Vikings better in the short term. I don't. Packers, they've already come out and said Rodgers has been played coy about his future. Both the GM and the head coach said he's going to be there for a long time. I think Rodgers leaving was never really actually in the cards.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah.
Well, Lions, we know they got Goff, so that's another surefire. We've changed quarterbacks. And the Bears... Oh, the Bears.
I'm leaving this one to you. I'll fill in with whatever thoughts afterwards.
Bring back Trubisky on a 1-year deal. That's my thoughts. I don't want to see them draft somebody, and I don't want to see them trade for somebody. And the reason is it's likely the last year of Nagy and Pace. And I don't want whoever comes in next to be side-saddled with no draft picks because they went out and sold the farm for somebody, even if it is Deshaun Watson, or to be side-saddled with, a long-term deal and no cap space. I don't think that the GM or the head coach are back. So I think you need a short-term answer at quarterback here. And that's either you bring back Trubisky, who knows the offense, or your other option, Jameis Winston. Or, and I hate that I've had this thought, you know who reminds me of somebody that would be perfect in a Matt Nagy offense? Screens and checkdowns and the occasional deep bomb. Freaking Mac Jones.
Oh my God, that's funny.
Mac Jones.
I can't wait to get to the quarterback episode.
And I think
to the NFL draft quarterback.
I can't either. And that will be another mistake. So, Bears.
That would be a mistake.
Yeah, no. The Bears couple options. Can ride with Nick Foles and lie in that bed, and it's going to be a painful season. Bring back Trubisky on a 1-year deal. Bring in Cam on a 1-year deal. I do not want to see them go long-term, and I do not want to see them sell the farm. That's where I'm at.
Do you think, what's the percentage chance off the top of your head that Nagy and Homeboy will sell the farm and try to save their jobs long-term? you think there's a real legitimate chance that they do that?
65, 70%.
Okay. See, that's if I'm a Bears fan, that's where my biggest concern is, because I think they know that. And if you're someone that's about to lose your job, that wants to keep their job or wants to keep a job that pays this well, likely going to try to do something crazy. This is why I think the Watson scenario could happen. This is why I think they can make a move for a Derek Carr to try to save or like salvage something. The Bears still have a great defense, and if they can make a trade for a non-Watson guy and keep their first round pick somehow, that pick could be used on a receiver. That pick could be used to help. I don't know where your biggest weaknesses are. Maybe draft a tackle to help the offensive line, or try to replenish some of the aging defensive players, or once they get potentially moved in a trade. So they're the team that I think I'm looking out for the most. I think the Bears and the Raiders are the two teams that I expect to just shock some people.
Yeah, and it's an enviable spot if you're a Bears fan, because ideally you would have just liked to see the regime change over this year with the expiration of the quarterback contract, but because Trubisky came in the last year of John Fox, they didn't line that up with the GM or the head coach. So you just hope, weirdly, I hope for a painful year next season, and then we get to hit reset. AFC North. Pittsburgh Steelers. Ben has said that he'll play for essentially free if they want him to. He doesn't care what he gets paid. He just wants to play in Pittsburgh. Is Ben playing in Pittsburgh?
Yeah, Ben's playing in Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh still views this team as a playoff contender. Obviously, 2020 did not end the way that Pittsburgh wanted it to. There's obvious holes on both sides of the football here. They gotta. I think they keep Ben, and then they are the ones that draft a quarterback. But I don't see them bringing anybody in via free agency. They're the team that in day one or day two will draft a quarterback. Who that quarterback is,
I don't know.
I'm not about these guys enough. I don't need to talk about them anymore.
And I'm not familiar enough with the guys that could go day two.
Yeah.
So
if there's a team that's going to move up in the first round or try to trade back with their pick to try to get some more capital, to then draft a quarterback there, this is this team. I think Pittsburgh, especially Mike Tomlin, who could be on the hot, who seemingly is on the hot seat every year the last few years. He's the one who could also try to save his tenure with drafting a quarterback this year, letting Ben play one more year, and then right off into the sunset.
Yeah, I think Ben is starting there. They may draft somebody developmental. They may punt it another year. But Ben's starting. They're too good on defense with too many weapons to not have somebody that's ready to go. Browns are set with Baker. Bengals are set with Burrow. Ravens are set with Lamar. So that takes care of the AFC North.
Very easy division.
Yeah. NFC East, not quite as easy, because this could be four new quarterbacks. Washington, we've talked about them at length. Alex Smith, they have an out on him. I think he's cut. Kyle Allen's a free agent. Dwayne Haskins is no longer there. They have no answer at quarterback right now.
They're going to probably bring in a veteran. They're going to probably press hard for a guy like Dak if he does get let go in Dallas. And then, as we mentioned, a team that's going to try to move up and then draft to take some money or let somebody fall to them.
Cam reunion?
I think that seems to be the most popular with his reunion with Ron Rivera. If there's someone that's going to help Cam get back to his old ways, I think it's going to be Rivera. And just with the familiarity with the offense and just with the relationship that they have together.
Yeah, I think that's probably the most logical thing to happen, honestly.
Yeah. And then draft somebody when they bring in Cam.
Yeah.
They have to.
Eagles. Their starter's in-house. I just don't know which in-house guy it is. It's going to be Hurts or Wentz.
It's going to be the most debated talk throughout offseason. With the departure of Doug Peterson, and made it more likely that Wentz was going to stay on top of his egregious contract, anyways.
That's why we haven't really talked about him as a trade candidate. Is the egregious contract?
I think there's only one team, and that is the Colts. That's
the
based
Colts.
on the salary cap situation that could trade for Wentz. I don't think it happens now. So I think Wentz will stay, and I think you'll have some sort of competition. I think it's going to be what we've seen out of like Baltimore with Flacco and Jackson at some point, or with Breeze and Hill, and we're going to see Wentz and Hurts kind of, I won't say trade off series, but I think Wentz will start, and Hurts will go back to his old role.
I think Wentz will start also, at least to start the season. If he struggles again, I think he's going to be on a short leash. I think that that they're going to try to get him to start, though, because they got to try to justify the contract. You can't move it. Worst case scenario, you got to try to build some trade value in him because it's at an all-time low. So I think we agree. I don't expect that to be a new starting quarterback, at least to start the season. New York Giants, I think as competitive as the quarterback landscape is, they're probably rolling with Daniel Jones again, although not the regime that drafted him. So is Daniel Jones a trade candidate? Is this the guy that goes the way of Josh Rosen?
Yes, I think there is a legitimate chance. What did the Giants pick?
11.
11? There is a legitimate chance that Jones gets moved on, either pre-draft or during draft, or I would assume pre-draft, and then they use Jones draft picks, pick 9 and whatever pick they get for Jones, or plus picks, and then move up to take somebody.
Giants, dark horse team for Deshaun Watson, given how good that defense is.
Potentially, I can see them trying to just move up in the draft and taking somebody there, utilizing that window to be able to sign these defensive players when they when their time to be signed is up.
Yeah. I don't think with the regime change or anything, Giants are another team not making waves to me that says they're bound to make a splash. I don't think that with the regime change they roll with Daniel Jones. I'm calling them a quarterback switch.
I hope so. We both finally somebody that we can agree on. We both hate Daniel Jones.
Yes, we do. We agree on a lot of people we don't like. I think we just have varying opinions on Kyle Trask and Trey Lance, is what I've gathered so far.
And Mac Jones.
Well, I think we're both pretty mad on Mac Jones.
I have a lot more. If he lands and of course I need spot dependent, but I think if he does land.
To be fair, have not watched his film yet, so
that's true.
Give me until next week, and then I'll have a more informed opinion. Dallas Cowboys. I think it's Dak. I honestly think they re-sign him. I don't think they let him go.
Just hearing reports a while, not too long ago, saying that they've gone backwards in talks. I don't think they re-sign Dak. I think they let Dak go, and then they use this horrible regime that
they can franchise him again, can't they?
I think you can go up to 3 times.
He's only been franchised once, right?
Yeah. Wait. Yes. It's hard because they gave Zeke and Cooper extensions, which made it immensely harder to keep Dak.
Yeah.
What pissed off
Dak camp. And we always knew that was going to be the case, that they weren't going to keep all 3. So who do you let walk? Probably should have been Zeke. But
hindsight 2020, and especially when it happened, it should have always been Zeke.
Yeah.
You don't keep running backs over, franchise quarterbacks and a franchise receiver. You just don't.
Yep. Now, this beer is the Dak Prescott of beers. It is to beers what Dak Prescott is to this free agent class. And that is it's standing amongst not a whole lot because, quite honestly, it's miscast in its style. So it stands out for sure. If you were to compare it to other cream ales, for example.
Yeah.
It stands out because it's not a cream ale. Anyway, I'll digress. That being said, the one thing this does do, because it's an ale and a cream ale, is they got the body close to a cream ale. And if you've had cream ales, you know that means it's very light, very drinkable. You could probably drink 30 of these things and be completely fine because they're low ABV and they're very, very light. And while it's dark in appearance, it's very, very light in body.
Hmm.
Pecan doesn't come out a lot on beers. I would say the pecan on this is very similar to what they have in their a salted caramel pecan or in their just regular pecan ale. The caramel is what really jumps out in this. And again, I think that's because, they do caramel a little differently. They didn't do, they did it as a pre-bottling additive versus doing it through straight malts, and that's something that they've learned from their salted caramel pecan ale, which cool. And then the chocolate gives a little bit of a backbone that doesn't really jump out as much. It's a little bit more caramel forward, but I think it's more caramel forward than their caramel pecan ale. So overall, I think they did really good with this 4204 brewery that we're fond of. I will admit they definitely have some hit or misses as far as beers go. This one's definitely a hit for me.
So, fun and sad fact, that beer is the beer that replaced Sworchata, which Sworchata, I don't know if you agree with me or not, is
Sworchata was phenomenal.
The best beer they made, hands down. Obviously, I haven't tried a lot of their in-house or their barrel, if they do any sort of barrel age program, which I don't think they do.
I don't think so.
Sworchata has been their best beer.
Yeah.
And I was pissed when they got rid of it.
No. Sworchata Off Duty is another one of theirs that I quite enjoy. Off Duty is what's kind of replaced, most common Pilsners for me for things like sporting events and bonfires and whatnot.
So I'm gonna go ahead with my review. Mine is also kind of based around Dak, and he's the sweetness of the class. He's the one that you want to gravitate towards. He's the guy that brings out the excitement in it, and with it being February and it being a Valentine's Day season, it's very fitting that I brought on again Hubbard's Caves Raspberry French Toast, a beer that is heavily front forward with raspberry to the point that it's kind of medicinal-esque light, which is odd to bring out of a raspberry, but you can definitely tell that they use raspberry syrup in this. I'll give more of what's inside here: raspberry, cinnamon, maple syrup, vanilla, and lactose. It's heavily sweet. I don't get much of the maple. I get a lot of roast. I get a lot of chocolate on it. Nose wise, it's again, you get this where the syrup I think sticks out more. That and the raspberry. It's just very, very, very raspberry forward. So if you like raspberry and you like stouts, especially stouts that are upwards above 10%, I give this one a go. I think they could have done a little bit better with this in terms of balance. But as someone who loves raspberry as a fruit pairing in their dark beers, I've had better, but I've definitely had worse. So it rests in between 60%, and
yeah. All right. So we expect Dak to start for Dallas, right?
No, I don't.
You don't.
No, I expect. I think he's gone. I think he does. I think he goes somewhere else. I don't think it's as obvious as Watson in Houston, but I definitely think he is gone.
Okay, so what do they do? Because we can't be right about everybody in this draft class that's drafting a quarterback, because we've said that there's 5 guys that could go, and 1, 2, hold on, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
There's a lot of quarterbacks.
Yeah, 8, 9 guys, 9 teams at least in the top 20 that could draft a quarterback. So double the number of teams as quarterbacks that should have a first round grade.
So right now they have, was it 3? They have 1 pick in the first round, right? Is that right?
Dallas?
I'm reading this wrong.
1 in the first round. They picked 10.
I'm getting something different. Yeah, it should be pick 10.
Yeah, it's pick 10.
And then pick whatever. Either way. I'm expecting if they let that go again, we can keep saying it's going to be a quarterback there, unless they get one, unless they decide to bring somebody else in or trade for somebody else. They're going quarterback there. If they don't, then defensive player probably there. But if Dak leaves, then they're going quarterback. They're going to either draft or they'll use one of their 2-day 2 picks or their 2 second-round picks, and they can move for somebody else.
I think they get it done with Dak. I really do. I don't know with that offense what else you do there, unless Wilson falls to them.
I mean, we can keep it depends who they fall in love with. I mean, we can say, Wilson seems to be the consensus 3, regardless of how you feel about, Fields and Wilson. It feels like as a whole,
yeah,
Wilson will go somewhere between picks 3 and 10 with a chance at 2. They could be a team that tries to trade out for a quarterback. What if they do like a sign and trade with Dak? What if they try to franchise tag him to keep him on the roster longer and then try to move him afterwards?
So they have to eat some cap money. I think that you pull first round picks that way, but unless you're doing that sign and trade with, I don't know, the Jets, then I don't know that solves your problem. And the Cowboys are another team that, particularly on offense, is built to win now. So
that defense is historically bad.
That defense was historically bad, but that defense was historically bad after 2 years of being average and not a lot of player turnover, which leads me to think that they very much underperformed, and a coordinator change might do them some good. True.
I mean, I think they'll be better. They can't be much worse. I think if they do keep Dak, then that pick 10 is a defensive player.
Yeah.
Or it could be an offensive lineman because their offensive line has now just been depleted.
Yeah, they were hurt.
Injury and retirement too. So.
Yeah. Yep, they were. So, be interested. Dallas is one of those teams where if they don't re-sign Dak, it's going to be like, holy shit, what are they going to do? And man, are they going to fall off?
Yes, they will.
Jets, we know that's going to. We assume. Sorry, I say we know. We assume that's going to be a quarterback. They've also been quoted as saying they still believe Sam Darnold has a lot of unlocked potential, which means they are a trade back candidate too.
True. I mean, as much as I want to believe in Darnold and as much as I would like to entertain the idea that they do trade back. Again, regime change and
Darnold's another
refresh start button.
Darnold's another guy though that we haven't talked about a lot as a trade for candidate either.
I definitely think that if it looks like they're going quarterback, Darnold gets the Rosen type of treatment in terms of he'll be moved on from.
Yeah, except I think he probably has a little bit more value than Rosen.
Yes.
And
yes, he does.
Dallas is a team that maybe could unlock that if they can't re-sign Dak. There's Indy could decide to go that route and let him compete. San Francisco would be another one that could trade for him and decide to let him compete with Garoppolo. So, do you think Darnold starts for the Jets in week 1?
No. I think his time is up there.
Yeah.
Whether he's on the team or not remains to be seen, but if they don't go quarterback, which to me would shock me, it just seems you don't pick this high ever. And with the recruit and then with the prospects there, with Lawrence and Fields or with Lawrence and Fields and potentially Wilson, Fields has been, saddled to Lawrence since high school. They came out in the same draft, or they came out in the same recruitment class in 2018, and they're both 1 and 2 in the class, not at the position, in the class. So it just feels like they're gonna make that move there. But if they don't, they do trade back and they do, decide to build around Darnold, at least try to, then that could happen. I just don't think it will. I think Darnold.
I don't think they
the guy there.
build around Darnold. I just think that
they'll just keeps
it keeps their options open to move back if they decided to and get a haul off of that to really help rebuild the team. And it's not the first time I've thrown that theory out there.
Yeah.
To where, maybe you ride with Darnold for the next year or two.
And if they feel like there's 2 quarterbacks in next year's class that are on par or potentially above a Fields and Wilson, then maybe they will.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of what it leads to.
Or you do exactly what Arizona did, as you mentioned. You go ahead and you make the pick, and then you flip Darnold. And there's enough quarterback needy teams with enough upside, and Sam Darnold, who's also young enough to make him worth flipping, honestly. That's who the Bears could trade for that I wouldn't necessarily hate because the price is going to be a lot better. Just some things to think about.
How much the Jets would try to move him for. Is he still worth? Is he still, first round pick?
Cheaper than Watson is what I meant. So.
Yeah, you're right. He'll definitely be cheaper than Watson.
Yep. Patriots. Definitely, to me, a new quarterback there.
Yes. Who that quarterback
is?
That's it.
That's all I got. I don't know who the hell it's going to be.
Who the fuck knows?
It's not going to be Cam.
I think at this point we've talked about
everybody,
prospects and the free agent guys, and we can probably just ride through these pretty quickly. And be like,
well, it's not going to be hard. The Bills have Josh Allen; he's going nowhere, and the Dolphins, I think, ride with Tua.
Yeah, I think they ride out with Tua, or they somehow are the team that they.
They're the one I would expect to move. They're the one that I would expect to move back out of 3.
Yeah. Yep. I agree.
So, all right. That's all we got. Short episode tonight. By our standards.
Everything?
That's everything. Oh. Only an hour and a half.
Somehow feel like we missed the division, but I guess we didn't.
We did not. No, it's because we didn't have to talk about anybody in the AFC North.
That's true. In NFC North, AFC West-ish.
Yeah, AFC West.
The AFC North is obviously very simple.
AFC North and the NFC North both went very quick.
Right.
So, yeah, wow.
Wow.
I mean, I don't know. Is there anything fun in this list of leftover of news we didn't talk about that you want to talk about? Because I don't think so.
No, I don't really. No.
Oh, well, this might be worth mentioning because it feeds into the conversation. Broncos, Panthers, Bears, Niners, Patriots all inquired on Matthew Stafford and Washington. So there you go. Those are teams that are kicking the tires on trades.
Which, yeah, I think that's the biggest talking point is what teams are trying to be active in the quarterback trade market.
Yeah, I mean that's everybody you'd expect. So,
yep.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll be back next week. Super Bowl recap.
Oh.
We didn't preview the Super Bowl. We did last week. It's fine. My opinions haven't changed. I don't
even think they've changed.
I don't think the spread's changed either.
I'm gonna pull it up real quick, just because it's the last time we can give an update on if there's anything that if anything's probably changed is that the Chiefs spread's probably gone down. There's so many people that at least I've talked to have seen that are on the Bucks.
Yeah.
And that's going to push the spread, obviously, to something more palatable for any Chiefs fans. I bet I did a Chiefs minus 3.5 to get it to even odds because I think the Chiefs will win, and I want to get it's as close to the best odds I like. I don't like 3.5 that much, but we had even odds for it, so I'll take it. Where the fuck is football?
It's under the tab that says football.
No football on it. It's still minus 3.
That's what I thought.
It's still 56.5.
So
they've added in a lot of the parlays. So coin toss result is now in there at minus 103.
Tails never fails.
The tails never fails. Correct score, I guess, is now in here, which I don't want to forget the score. Fuck that. Yeah, there's a lot of as one should expect from
Super Bowl week.
Prop bet plays.
A lot of prop bets.
A lot of prop, and I'm really glad that because we both use FanDuel. That FanDuel has gone above and beyond the prop bet choices.
Have they?
So there's like coin. I'm saying for this game, not in whole.
Can I bet on a tie? Like, is in
unfortunately
an
not.
Announcer's tie?
Unfortunately not. But they have
like that year Tony Romo fucked me by wearing a striped tie that looked like a solid color.
I'm telling people at work about that. You can bet what will happen first for Mahomes or Brady, a touchdown or pick.
Okay. Touchdowns for both?
I mean, in terms of odd-wise, we expect touchdowns over picks, but
yeah.
No. Touchdowns minus 370.
I won some money on a Brady pick in last year's.
And there's their own tab on FanDuel for the prop bets. Then they have sub tabs for literally everything else, for like QBs, receivers, running backs, same game day parlays, coin toss, which we talked about. You can bet on if the team who picked got it right.
Yeah. I saw all those. I was just curious if they had anything new and fun, like anthem props or anything.
No. At least not yet.
Okay.
You can bet on the Super Bowl favorites for next year.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Can the Padres win a Super Bowl? Because I'm going to bet on them to win the World Series.
Oh, the Padres?
Yeah.
All right. I think that's the show.
That is the show.
That is, we have, despite our best efforts to go beyond an hour and a half.
Yeah, no, we won't be on an hour and a half. You did it. Congratulations.
Ooh.
Thank you guys for tuning in. Beerfield FF on Twitter. Beerfield Fantasy Football on YouTube. Try to make that less of a shit show normally. Yes. That was rough. Won't be linking that one in the tweet. And we'll catch you guys next week sometime.
See ya.